Okay, hello everyone. My name is Linda Hershkovitz, and I am the president of the New Israel Fund of Canada. Welcome to the 12th annual Shira Herzog Symposium, this year held both virtually and in person. This gathering has been the largest of its kind since its inception in 2010, a place where Canadians can hear from Israelis who are defending and advancing democracy, human rights, and equality in Israel on the ground every day. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that here in Toronto, we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and that this is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Those of you who are joining from elsewhere in Canada, and welcome to you as well, and therefore sit in different Indigenous territory, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect and acknowledge this wherever you are. Over the next hour and a half, we will discuss with our panelists some of Israel's most pressing issues. We're all worried about Israel's next elections in just over a week, about continued violence, and about human rights for all. But before we turn to our panel, we have a couple of other things that we need to do. The New Israel Fund has always taken the long view. We believe that Israel has always had within it the strength, the values, and the people to overcome the inequality, exclusion, and extremism that undermine it from within. We know this because this year we celebrate the 40th anniversary of Shatil, which is the capacity building and movement building arm of the New Israel Fund in Israel. Its evolution over 4 decades demonstrates the accomplishments of Israeli civil society in holding truth to power, speaking up for the disenfranchised, and always advancing the next milestone for a true liberal democracy and a shared society. Even and especially when those issues are hard, like equality for Palestinian citizens and ending the occupation. Can I have my water? Thanks. Thanks, Ben. So to clarify, what is Shatil and why does it exist? Just a few years after the New Israel Fund made its first grants in Israel, it became immediately apparent that the country's fledgling civil society sector needed more than just money. Pioneering Israelis from every walk of life in every corner of the country, men and women, Mizrahi, Ethiopian, Russian, LGBTQ, non-Orthodox, and Arab, also needed skills and know-how. How to get heard by policymakers, the media, and the public, how to make a budget, raise funds, supervise staff, and evaluate impact, how to work together with other like-minded organizations, even when they don't agree on everything. Israel is called a startup nation, and that makes Shatil Israel's first and only civil society incubator. It's not totally possible to separate Shatil's impact from that of NIF's grant making. The two strategies have been our twin engines of empowering Israelis fighting for social change. The accomplishments of our partners are many of the reasons why we can be proud of Israel. Torture is outlawed. You can't be fired for refusing employment on Shabbat. Arab citizens can't be banned from living in Jewish neighborhoods. LGBTQ couples can adopt and their marriages abroad recognized. There's a Freedom of Information Act and a Disability Rights Act and other basic legislation that distinguishes Israel from many other countries. But in recent years, we've seen that no democracy is safe from backsliding into populism, corruption, and extremism. A couple of months ago, I was in Israel for NIF's International Board meeting, and I attended the celebration for Shatil's 40th anniversary. I was gratified to hear the warm greetings and unprecedented appreciation of Shatil's 4 decades coming from no less than Israel's president, Herzog. So now, Let's meet just 3 of the many Israelis who thank you for sustaining Shatil over these last 4 decades.
Hello, I am Esther Sivan, Director of Shatil for the past 4 years. Shatil, NIF's arm on the ground and the home for social change in Israel, has served thousands of NGOs and activists over the past 4 decades. This year, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary through a marvelous exhibition, 40 on 40, Changing Reality. We are delighted to honor these key figures and leaders who have brought about significant changes in Israeli society. I'm excited to introduce to you 3 of these amazing activists.
My name is Nina Pfeiffer. I'm CEO of the Nu Haredim. I founded the organization 3 years ago. The Nu Haredim is an umbrella organization for Haredi activists who do grassroots work in Israel to try to bring in more progressive ideas into the community. Each member of the community is an activist or has an organization, but together the things we work on are more secular education for Haredi boys to enable them to have a future, to be part of the workforce, sexual assault and harassment in the Haredi community, and women's rights.
נבילה אספניולי, מנהלת מרכז טופולי, אקטיביסטית, פמיניסטית, פעילה פוליטית, פלסטינית, אזרחית מדינת ישראל. מרכז הטופולה, מרכז שמקדם את החינוך לגיל הרך בחברה הפלסטינית בישראל, ומעצים את הנשים, במיוחד קבוצות המוחלשות בתוך החברה שלנו. התחלנו כקבוצה של נשים שהקמנו את המרכז לקידום החינוך לגיל הרך. מהר מאוד גילינו שאי אפשר לטפח את הגיל הרך בלי לדבר על נשים ועל סוגיות של נשים, ואי אפשר להכשיר מטפלות שעבדו עם הגיל הרך בלי להעצים אותם כנשים. וככה התפתח 2 מסלולים במרכז, גם חינוך לגיל הרך וגם העצמת נשים.
I'm Ori Cole, founder of Mechazkim, former CEO of Mechazkim, and co-founder of Fake Reporter. Fake Reporter is a disinformation watchdog fighting against malicious activity online. Mechazkim is a progressive campaigning organization that works mainly online. We were just a small Facebook group. Now we're one of the largest progressive campaign groups in Israel. We collaborate with many organizations and activists to help their campaigns, help their fundraising efforts. The fight for a better Israel has to have an online presence.
הצלחנו לעשות שינויים בנושא של אחריות המשטרה בעניין רצח של נשים. הוועדה שעוקבת אחרי רצח נשים בתוך המשפחה החליטה להתייחס לא רק לרציחות של הבעל, אלא רציחות בכלל של נשים בתוך המשפחה. זה התרחב לכלול לפחות 80% מהמקרים ולא 50% מהמקרים כפי שהיה עד עכשיו. שזה הישג אדיר בעיניי.
So one achievement we had, we managed to uncover a few Iranian spying operations infiltrating Likud groups and also portraying to be ultra-Orthodox extreme right-wingers to try and provoke Israeli society into racist and nationalist violence.
I want the Nu Haredim to be a powerful lobby that can get politicians to do things for us. We've hosted already 2 politicians. We're going to host another 1 or 2 next week. They realize that we are a group that they want to engage with. We provide the Nu Haredi community with opportunities to be more liberal, more progressive, and not just what the right wing is offering.
During May 2021, we managed to uncover over 100 groups with extreme right-wingers organizing violence against Palestinians. We were the first to actually go out and tell that story to the police, to the Israeli and international media, and we actually managed to save some lives.
שתיל ליוותה את הפעילות של מרכז טופולה, גם בפיתוח הכישורים של המרכז כחלק מחברה האזרחית, וההכשרות וההדרכות והייעוצים, והלמידה הזאת מאפשרת לך צמיחה.
NIF and Shatil has always been present in my work, be it in consultations, fundraising efforts, media training and organizing training. With the NIF and Shatil's help, you can do so much more than you ever imagined.
I want to thank both NIF and Shatil for their generous support and just walking the path with me the entire time.
They believed in me, even though I didn't really believe it myself yet.
דרך שתיל ודרך הסיוע של שתיל הצלחנו לשנות את התחום.
I would like to thank you NIF supporters around the world. Your important and valued support makes all of this work possible. Hope to see all of you next year.
Yeah, so I hope that gives you a clear sense of what Shatil does, what its role is within the new NIF community, and how important it is in our work. Funding alone, while vitally important, has never been enough. The next 40 years in Israel will require dedicated activists and vibrant, mobilized, powerful movements that collaborate to overcome the challenges we're seeing in this election and always. In that same spirit, we're going to turn to our second moment of celebration before hearing from our panel. To present our next special moment, we're joined by a good friend, our good friend Joan Garson, who is our former president and the first recipient of the Shira Herzog Award 2 years ago. Joan?
Thank you, Linda. Before her passing in 2014, Shira Herzog left an indelible mark on the Canadian Jewish community, the New Israel Fund of Canada, and Israel itself. She devoted her life to pursuing a better Israel, and the Shira Herzog Award in her memory recognizes others who've also made an outsized impact on equality and democracy in Israel. This year, we are proud to give the second Shira Herzog Award to David Lepofsky for his impact in Israel and Canada. His impact advancing disability rights. David's activism often earns him headlines and media interviews, so take a look at just a few clips about David's volunteerism, both here and there, including in an interview with Shira Herzog herself.
My guest is David Lepofsky, lawyer by profession and for a long time an activist on behalf of the rights of the disabled in Canada. David, welcome to Israel Today. I'm delighted to have you, both because of your Canadian work, but also because I think you've got a unique perspective on the fight for, the battle for the rights of the disabled, both in Canada and in Israel.
Israel is fast becoming a world leader in recognizing rights for the disabled, thanks largely to David Lepofsky, a Canadian lawyer who is blind. 4 years ago, he went to Israel to help get disabled rights on the country's agenda. His efforts have been so successful that Israel is now sharing its research to help Canadians.
We face these barriers in every country. Canada's no exception, Israel's no exception. I happened to get involved in two ways at the same time. One was in Canada as we started building a disability rights movement in Ontario that I ended up leading for a decade to try to get a new accessibility law. And
in Israel
at the same time, I met with some folks there to get them, to help encourage them to get started on the exact same mission. And over the next decade, there has been a lot of back and forth sharing of ideas and tactics to achieve our shared goals in these two different places.
Their message appears to be getting through. The Israeli parliament has already passed a number of laws benefiting the disabled. Lepofsky was recently asked to appear before one of its committees.
And we have learned that for a child with a disability to win the right to go to Kita Aleph, they'll learn about that right. They'll succeed in their battle by the time they're old enough to go to university. It's not good enough. We need the general right, but we also need specific, detailed legislation that tells schools and universities exactly what they must do to honor that right. And for us to achieve equality in education, what we really need, in the end, is a barrier-free education system. Chinuch beli michsholim. Nothing short of that will work.
If David Lepofsky has his way, Canada will soon follow Israel's lead and adopt its own disability rights laws.
I'm going to just acknowledge how close Shira feels to all of our work today. Thank you for those beautiful clips. And those clips hinted at the depth of David's activism in Israel and in Canada. In Canada, David helped to enshrine disability rights into the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and to pass Ontario's disability rights legislation. He also successfully sued Toronto Public Transit in Lepofsky versus TTC to announce bus and subway stops for those who can't see. In Israel, David has helped the disability rights movement from a seedling until today. He offered his experiences in Canada to Israeli activists and lawyers, founding the country's first disability rights group, Bizchut, advising them on advocacy for Israel's own disability rights legislation, and as we saw, appeared in 1998 before the Knesset's Constitution Committee. David is still active in Israel today. He's a former member of our board, a current member of our advisory council, and has taken no fewer than 3 of our study tours. He's often in Israel, volunteering with Shatil and Bizchut, as well as giving lectures to law students, training activists in social media, and raising funds for NIF and Bizchut. I have traveled with David in Israel, held discussions with him in Canada, and all of our time together has been a learning experience for me. David's commitment to disability rights is unshakable, passionate, inspiring. He is a bright light. As the clips show, each of us has been touched personally by the outcome of his courageous and unswerving commitment. For anyone who doesn't know him personally, David is engaging, friendly, fun, smart, able, generous, and a delight to travel with. And he makes things happen. Perhaps it's that last quality, the ability to make things happen, that is the quality he shares most profoundly with Shira. Not only does he care so much, he knows how to achieve his goals, as did Shira. As an inspiring activist, David can teach us. I do wonder if any of us here today will be able to match his achievements. David, we are proud to give you this Shira Herzog Award today.
Give a blind guy with a big mouth a microphone and say, you only got 5 minutes? Ben, when my 5 minutes are up, just hold up a note. It is such an extraordinary honor to have the privilege to be able to work together, play together, travel together, and learn together with such amazing people as the board members, the staff, and the volunteers of the New Israel Fund. That alone is overwhelming and more than anybody could want or expect. This award just caps it off, and I'm so appreciative of it. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Israel really lives in or exists in 2 parallel universes. Quiz later, which episode? In one universe, it is the achiever of the impossible, making deserts bloom.
innovating new technology, new medical procedures, creating an opportunity unprecedented in the amount of time it's had. Absolutely the startup nation. In the other parallel universe, Israel is mired in conflicts that have plagued it since its inception, if not before, without resolution. It is plagued with tensions and inequities that could be solved. Why, I don't know which is more challenging, getting peace talks going or getting a coalition that can stay in office for more than a year. The thing about those two parallel universes is there is one place where they intersect. From the Star Trek metaphor, the interspatial location. And that is the New Israel Fund. Because on the one hand, New Israel Fund exists to tackle the most vexing of those unsolvable or intractable problems. That's where it lives. And on the other hand, New Israel Fund, fueled by its staff, its volunteers, and the phenomenal work of Shatil and all of its grantees, New Israel Fund is the embodiment of making the deserts bloom, innovating technology or procedures that no one had thought of before. 42 years ago, New Israel Fund aspired for Israel to be able to build an infrastructure for advocating for civil rights, but they did not have a civil rights bar in the legal profession. Now they do, and quite a robust one, because of New Israel Fund funding and clever strategies. So, in accepting this award, I want to make a commitment to all of you and to the fund. The fact is, there's always more that we can do. I'm committing myself to do what I can to help. Drawing on my experience as a disability rights advocate, one fact check, the way the video was, the CTV introduced me, I was one of a couple of people who helped get Bizchut started on the idea of legislation. I was not the fundamental moving force or anything like that. You know, headlines kind of overdo things. But what the heck, I'm a lawyer, so I want to be accurate, right? That was a joke. But in any event, let me just give you, before I stop, 5 ways that I see the disability rights agenda can fuel New Israel Fund's agenda. First, New Israel Fund is at its core dedicated to equality and human rights. Well, that includes, it must include, equality and human rights for people with disabilities. Second, New Israel Fund is dedicated to promoting the goal of shared society, bridging the divides. Well, try organizing, I've not done it, but I encourage the strategy of organizing Jews with disabilities, Palestinian citizens of Israel with disabilities, Druze with disabilities, Haredim with disabilities. Guess what? They're everywhere. Bring them together to fight for a common cause, like the one you heard about in that video, and that still is an issue today, barrier-free education. Get them together to fight for that common cause, and I bet we could start building bridges where there are fewer than we'd like there to be amongst those groups now. Third, we want to New Israel Fund is committed to advocating for a society without racial bias. That requires shifting some paradigms. Well, we folks who live in the disability rights movement, we've had a bit of experience with trying to shift paradigms. And we're happy to share those ideas and those strategies. Fourth, New Israel Fund is eager to build its funding base, of course. Well, the beauty of disability and equality is that it's neither left-wing nor right-wing. In fact, the guy who signed into law the most the most powerful disability rights law in world history is named George H.W. Bush, not known as a lefty. And if all of that wasn't enough, and I believe it is, I would say that the beauty of the disability rights agenda and how it interfaces is that as with any social justice strategy, we always learn from each other. You want to know about coalition building, bringing the impossible together? I can't say I've achieved it, but we've had to try it. Try to get people worried about autism, wheelchair issues, ramps, Braille, mental health issues under one roof, advocating for the same thing. That's something to which people in my movement aspire to. Again, we may have some ideas we could share. So let me conclude by saying again thank you, drawing on the Star Trek metaphor one last time for now. Let us say that the mission of New Israel Fund, the mission to which I pledged myself, is to achieve an Israel whose society is just, democratic, and egalitarian, so that it can, as a society, how do you say it? Live long and prosper. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay, I'm not sure how I can follow that, except to say thank you, David. Thank you, Joan. David, congratulations. We're so proud to be your friend and co-conspirator, and for some of us fellow Star Trek fans as well. It's time now to talk about the present moment in Israel and the country's future. For 3 years now, I've opened this symposium with a joke about how absurd it is that we're in yet another Israeli election. Well, here we are again, and I'm a broken record. We're 9 days away from the 5th election in 4 years. Each election has been different in some ways, but something big happened last year, something that has never, ever happened before in Israel. Since last year, a Palestinian political party has sat alongside Jewish parties from the left, center, and right to govern Israel. The unprecedented and unusual effects of this event are still unfolding. In its short time, the previous government delivered on campaign promises of each of its diverse members, even when many of these promises were diametrically opposed to each other. So we're here today to examine the upcoming elections, and especially the issues important to Palestinian Israelis, in light of what we've learned from this past year's embattled experiment. We at the New Israel Fund of Canada believe strongly that Israel's future as a liberal democracy depends upon Jewish-Arab partnership in government. Jewish Israelis are still just as divided as in the last 4 elections, and again, a Palestinian party could be the tie-breaking kingmaker or queenmaker. More than ever before, Jewish citizens in Israel are hearing the voices, needs, and perspectives of their Arab co-citizens. So we in Canada are called upon to do the same. When this symposium first began, it was the first major Jewish forum from which Canadian Jews could hear directly from Palestinian citizens of Israel. Today, our panel members are 2 of our Palestinian partners who are eager to share their perspectives on our shared journey, especially at this moment. So, Raja, Thabet, and Amal, would you please join us on stage? To moderate today's conversation, first I'd like to welcome Raja Khouri. Raja is CEO of Khouri Conversations, a human rights and inclusion consultant, the founding president of the Canadian Arab Institute, board member of Project Rosanna Canada, which many of you have heard of, I'm sure, and a former 10-year commissioner with the Ontario Human Rights Commission. He's a member of the Canada Committee of Human Rights Watch and co-founder of the Canadian Arab-Jewish Leadership Dialogue Group. Raja, welcome.
Thank you, Linda. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many of you are here in person, and I understand there's twice as many online with us today, and that's amazing. That's great. I would like to start by commending the New Israel Fund Canada on doing this. This does not happen every day here in the diaspora. Jews and Palestinians do not sit in a room and talk to each other every day. Fact is, our mainstream institutions, organizations don't want us to be talking to each other. Why? Because it's bad for business. Their business, which is to blame, attack, and demonize the other. And they don't want us talking to each other because we might, and we do, actually find common ground. So, those of us who choose to do this are taking the road, less traveled, and we get flack from both sides for it. And with us today are two individuals who take this road less traveled every day, and we're honored to have them with us. I call them the amazing Amal and the super Thabet.
The super Amal and the amazing Thabet.
Yes.
Yes.
Fine by me.
That's great.
Works for me.
Good.
And I'm sure by the end of the session today, you will agree with me that they are both super and amazing. Amal Elsana, Dr. Amal Elsana is the founder and executive director of Pledge, promoting leadership for empowerment, development, and justice, which brings her vision of empowering the most marginalized communities to address intractable social problems to the local, national, and international levels. Amal has over 30 years of experience working at the intersection of community organizing and peace building in the Middle East and Canada, focusing on marginalized minorities. Her approach to grassroots work focuses on strengthening the organic linkage between academia and communities. Amal is the author of Hope is a Woman's Name. The book is in the back. Plenty of copies.
Yes.
A personal memoir that recounts her experiences growing up as an indigenous Bedouin Palestinian woman in Israel, which we'll have, the copies are here for sale. Okay. Now to the amazing Thabet, right?
It's enough, yeah.
Dr. Thabet Abu Rass is co-CEO of the Abraham Initiatives, which are a very different thing from the Abraham Accords.
Yes, thank you.
Prior to this role, Thabet served on Adala's board of directors from 2006 to 2008, and in 2010 became the director of its Negev office. He also previously served as the director of Shatil's office in Beersheba, or Beersheba. He is a member of the board of directors of several environmental and Jewish Arab educational organizations, and has also been co-chair of the board of the Hand in Hand schools in Israel. Additionally, he is the co-founder of AEJI, the Association of Environmental Justice in Israel. Thabet is a political geographer and has taught courses at Ben Gurion University and Sapir College on ethnic relations, land, planning, and regional development. Welcome both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I mean, I've read your bios, but you know, I'd like to hear from you in your own words. You know, who are you? Who are you today, and why? Maybe we'll start with the amazing, and then we'll go to the super.
Well, I'm Thabet Abu Rass. I'm from the Arab town, Palestinian town inside Israel called Kalansawa. It's just 40 miles northeast of Tel Aviv, between Haifa and Tel Aviv. Well, my wife is Professor Ruwaida Abu Rass Shbeta. She's a professor of English. And I have two amazing kids. One, Thair, is pursuing his PhD in University of Maryland. And the younger kid is Mohammed, is a businessman. My family, I came from a very big family. I have 9 sisters and 4 brothers. I have only 2 kids, yes, remember. And we are total 14, but the larger family even, it's across the homeland, not Israel. To tell you that half of my family living in the refugee camps of Gaza. There is one aunt that's still there that born inside Israel today in one Palestinian town that erased ruins during the Nakba. And my family was kicked to Gaza Strip during the Nakba of 1948. Unfortunately, I cannot visit my last aunt, 85 years old. Probably you can imagine her life under the current regime in Gaza in the so bad socioeconomic situation, under siege, no social security, no any help, and still I have to try to help her, to see her, but I cannot really see her. I can only talk with her. So half of my family is actually living in Gaza refugee camps. Well, I graduated from University of Arizona. I am political geographer, and I have a PhD in the Middle East. I am very social activist, a political activist, and I moved from academy following the second Intifada to work for the civil society, and I helped building a new organization. I worked for the New Israel Fund for 7 years, and still I'm there. And today I'm the co-executive director of the Abraham Initiatives I mentioned here, and we are promoting equality and integration between Arab and Jewish citizens inside Israel, okay? And my profession is, as I said, political geographer, but I'm really interested in several topics. Politics in Israel is so important for us, and I believe that we have to find a way for political partnership, and I'm happy that my organization is working hard in this issue, in the municipal level, in the mixed cities, in mixed regions, and also in the national level, and we are just start to succeed. Maybe I will elaborate later.
Thabet, you know, you reminded me of the fact that most people don't realize that the people of Gaza, most of them came from 1948, and that, you know, they are the same families of other Palestinians, you know, in other places.
Yeah, over 40% of the people, the Arab citizens like me, citizens of the State of Israel, okay, they have relatives, immediate families in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. And when there is a siege over Gaza, we are not allowed to visit Gaza at all. Still, we officially are not allowed to visit Area A within the West Bank, okay? And we are doing that illegally. The government of Israel doesn't have any solution for this. I am in Nablus, in Tulkarem, in Kalkili almost every week. This is where I'm shopping. I am enjoying to be there. And after erasing the green line, okay, the green line is not there anymore, okay? It's there for the Palestinian under the occupation. Since I am Israeli citizen, I can move freely, almost freely, within the West Bank. But yeah, the conditions of the Palestinians, especially nowadays, is so bad following the rise of tensions, and you probably hear about what's going on. And we really concerned about what's going on right now. And I will say a few words about the election. One of the reasons for such suppression of votes, Arabs are not turning their votes out, is the issue of the conflict and its implication in the Arab Palestinian citizen inside Israel.
Something we're going to be talking about. Yes, quite a bit later on. Super, Amal.
Well, first of all, I'm really delighted to be here among you all, and I feel I'm like among my family. I see people, faces that I know, I worked with, I miss, and I have my husband here who decided to accompany me, Anwar, and I have two board members of a pledge, Gail and David, who did host me over amazing brunch today, Lebanese brunch. So thank you very much, David and Gail. And John is here, and yeah, I feel really among my own people. So thank you for this amazing opportunity.
You noticed that Thabet and I were not at the lunch with you.
Yeah, because you invited him for dinner last night and you didn't invite me. So. I took revenge very quickly.
It was Barbara's
This is
fault.
Barbara?
Yeah.
Don't blame the woman in the end of the day, okay? So my name is Amal Alh'jooj. I was born and raised in Lagia village. It's a Bedouin village south of Bir al-Saba, Beersheba. I said I'm a super and he's an amazing because yes, I have 13 brothers and sisters. And I was born as a fifth girl, and this is the main reason why I became an activist, and you will read it in my book. Because when I was born, it was a tragedy for my parents. They didn't want to have a girl, they wanted to have a boy. And my father came to see my mother at Soroka Hospital, and he said, let's give her the name Hope, hoping God will give us boys after her. 5 boys were born after me. So to be born in such an atmosphere that you understand that your presence is not granted and it's conditional, and you have to prove and you have to meet the expectations. So I grew up as such a child who always wanted to prove herself that I can do things better than boys. So I was a fighter. I remember one of my first fights were over a meal, when my mother usually would give my siblings, the boys, the nice piece of a chicken, which breast or and I would get the wing, and I would throw it again in the plate, and I would fight for my right piece of a chicken. But slowly I understood that if I'm not fighting over these small things, then I wouldn't be able to fight to get my rights for better education, or even to choose my husband, Anwar. So I knew that these fights are small but meaningful, and it does mean that I'm standing up for myself. So I have my PhD from McGill University in community organizing, and then I did my postdoc at Harvard in gender-based violence, where my focus is on women organization of the Naqab, Negev, and their strategies and how to combat violence against women. What else? And as I said, I became an activist not by a choice, not by thinking, oh, now I'm a teenager, I want to do something. I became an activist because I knew how it feels to be treated as someone who's not worthy as a girl, or like a second-class citizen. When I was 6 years old, the police forces came to my village. At that time, Lagia wasn't recognized by the Israeli government. It exists before the state was established, but no recognition means no water, no electricity, and you have no permission to build. So at that time, I was 6 years old when they came with the bulldozers very early in the morning to take down my aunt's house, and I asked my father, why is that? And he said, because we are Palestinians. So to grow up juggling these two heavy missions, one to try to relocate myself and fight for my role as a woman in a patriarchal system and say, I am here and I'm gonna do it the way I feel suits me and my abilities and my capacities. At the same time, to fight as a Palestinian citizen of Israel and saying, I am not willing to take it as a second-class citizen and I will fight. And these two fights usually were really sometimes cross. Sometimes I would be crying because of the head of the tribe, it was tough on me, or I remember one of the big demonstrations against the Minister of Education, Limor Livnat, and that night was very difficult. So you don't know from where to, how to juggle these. But these still my fights until this moment. And the one who really raised me in such a way not to play the role of the victim is my grandmother, who said, I see you are very angry, but anger will eat you from the inside. If you want to live your life in a better way, turn this anger into a positive, constructive thing that will help you minimize all the reasons that brought that anger inside you. So every minute in my life is turning this anger, this feeling of, not knowing what to do, into something I have to do it. This is my life. This is my kids' future, and I have to do something about it. And this is why I'm here.
Okay. Clearly super. Well, you're on a roll, Amal, so why don't you get us started on what are the main issues today, particularly for Palestinian citizens of Israel. What's life like? What are the challenges?
So, well, I will start from the concept, David, if you allow me, that you mentioned, the desert and the blooming the desert. I was born in the desert. And blooming the desert, and that same desert have 82,000 people lack of water and electricity. So when we talk about blooming and flourishing and Ben Gurion vision to the Negev, where are the Bedouin in this vision? Where are we in that vision when we talk still in 2022 about people who has no right to appear in the map, when we talk about people who has no right for drinking water, when we still speak about people who has no schools, clinics, basic roads, address. So this is one of the main challenges. And usually when Israel speaks about the Naqab, which is geographically, and Thabet can second that, it's half of the area. And developing the Negev without the 32% of the Bedouin population, this is impossible. So either you have us as people who can contribute and build and be positive players and active citizens, or what we have today. So this is one issue, recognizing the unrecognized villages and treating them equally by providing the services and the recognition to these villages. And why is that? If a young Jewish person who wants to build a program and flourish, bloom the desert and do something to build the desert, they immediately provide him with electricity, water, and everything. While my grandmother and Anwar's family, who are living in Awajan, one of the unrecognized villages, is still struggling with containers that brings diseases every day to the kids. And Ahmed is still burying her insulin in the ground because there is no frigidaire. This is the state? Is this the democracy that we want to live in? Is this Israel that we know? This is the second challenge. Yeah, go ahead, because I can't speak for 3 days and a half.
I'm beginning to notice that. Just clarification, you said the Negev is half of the area, half of what?
More than half. 60% of the total geographical area is the Negev.
Of Israel.
Yet only 9% of the total Israeli population living in the Negev.
And among the 9, how many are Bedouin?
300,000, more than 300,000 Bedouins that make up 36% of the
more
total
than
population.
32,
yes, you are here for a few years already. The numbers are growing over time, rising.
So how do Palestinians feel when they hear something like, Israel made the desert bloom?
Well, maybe
made it bloom for the Jews, okay? We are excluded from this heaven, I will say. All Arabs, Bedouins, all they ask just to treat us just like the Jews. If we talk about the Negev issue, it's very important to know that Jewish residents of the Negev can live in a city, in a town, in a kibbutz, in a moshav. Even some Jews can live in individual farms. One family with 1,000 acres, while the Bedouins, they are imposing on them only urbanization or urban town. And this is a problem. Bedouins highly value space, and they used to live in space for centuries. Let us give the Bedouins exactly what we are doing to the Jews, not more than that. And there is enough room for everybody in the Negev. There is enough room for bringing 1 million Jews to the Negev, okay? The Negev is making up more than 60% of the total geographical area, okay? And again, only 9% of the total Israeli citizens live in that area. This will take me to the major challenge, two major challenges that faced by the Arab community, land and the planning. Land in Israel is a matter of identity. It's so sensitive area. This is why a planning system in Israel is so centralized. Land in Israel is not like in Canada, in the United States. Actually, decisions were imposed in the locals, in the Arabs mainly, okay? Israel is a unique country around the world. The state is controlling above 93% of the total geographical area. 93%, and more than that even, okay? Now, this means that all of the regulations and policies dictated by the state. Land in Israel cannot be purchased. Land can be only leased for 49 years. Now, the allocation of land, it's a state land, which if the state is a Jewish state, so it's actually allocation for the Jewish people. And not only this, I would like just to cite Article 7 of the nation state law that enacted just 4 years ago, that stating the state views the development of Jewish settlement as a national value and shall act to encourage promote its establishment and consolidation. The state of Jewish settlement, not Israeli settlements, okay? This issue of Jewishness of the state and being an Israeli state, it's a problem, honestly. What we are witnessing in the last, especially in the last decade, enhancing the Jewishness of the state on the expense of its democratic values. And who is paying the price? The minority. We are making up 20% of the total population, okay? While we are controlling less than 3.5% of the total geographical area of Israel. So it's a challenge. Another important challenge that probably I will elaborate about it, issue of crime and violence. 2/3 of the killed people each year are Arabs, okay? And there is the so-called under-policing and the treatment of the police, over-policing sometimes, and the treatment of the police. The police in Israel is very unique. There is a very strong security component of the work of the police. The police is not a matter of civic service like here and other places. It has, today, you will see the police, instead of fighting crime and violence in Arab towns, it's actually fighting and chasing Palestinians in the refugee camps of the West Bank, exactly today, this week. So it's a problem, but there is more than that. It's a challenge. Third challenge, maybe I will elaborate on this issue. Third challenge is racism in Israel. Israel, we have to pay attention. There's a deterioration of democratic values in Israel. There is the so-called extreme right wing that really rising in Israel. Ben Gvir and Smotrich. I would like to remind all of you, during the 80s, when Kahana, the ideological father of Ben Gvir and Smotrich, okay, was elected to the Knesset, Prime Minister Menachem Begin was leaving the Knesset. He not willing to listen to him. Today, the leader of the Likud party, Bibi Netanyahu, is adopting Ben Gvir Today he promised to nominate him to be in one of the major ministries of the coming government if he is elected.
You know, the issue of access to the land, I remember I was in a lecture by Derek Pensler, a Canadian intellectual, and he said that 20% of the population, referring to the Palestinians, has access to 3% of the land only. And I remember, asking him at the time the issue of that you alluded to, Jewish state, democracy, and can you actually make this thing work? And his response was interesting. He said, it's a continuum that Israel has been on. It veers towards one or the other. It goes sometimes towards being more of a Jewish state than a democracy, and then it kind of sort of sets back. So, and that's I think at the heart of our discussion today, really. I mean, when the system is designed in a way that it meets the needs of one group more than the other. But this issue of the violence that you mentioned, Thabet, that's intriguing, and perhaps you can, tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we witnessed, following the Second Intifada, the depart of the Israeli police from Arab town. Arab towns became kind of ex-territory within the state of Israel. Nobody cared about what's going on. In the first decade of this century, actually, the Israeli police were fighting against organized crime within the Jewish cities. And what we witnessed that some of the criminal activities, organized crime, leaked, creeped, or to Arab towns. And here it started. Now, most of the crime organizations in Israel are Arab organizations, okay, according to the police, okay? Killing in the Arab towns is something amazing. This year, 93 Arabs already killed, okay? And we have still 2 more months to see. But I probably have to mention here that this government is doing a lot better than other governments, and there is a lot of efforts to combat crime and violence. And we see that there are some results. It's first steps, okay? It's a long shot to go to this issue to solve this problem. But we have to go back to the government. There are deep causes for this crime and violence. Why people kill each other? Issue of land and the planning. Arabs in the very crowded towns, Arab towns, Palestinian towns, they are competing over very limited land resource, okay? They kill each other. Sometimes they are competing over a public space within the town itself, and they kill each other. Arabs kill each other because of the lack of finance services. Just think about the Negev area. We just mentioned over 300,000 Bedouins living in one area. The big city is Rahat, around 75,000 people. You cannot find even one single bank branch outside of Rahat. So what this Bedouin will do? They have to go to the black market and to borrow money from there. And with the high interest that they cannot really return the loans. And here we go. We have a problem of bank services. We have a problem of young people, okay? That 40% of our kids in the age 18 to 24 neither working nor studying, okay? So we have to deal with these people, okay? And probably we will elaborate more about this issue.
I want to add on the issue here by looking at the root causes of the problem. And I would say that the state of Israel, since its establishment, viewed us as Arabs as either demographic threat or security threat. And even when you have a minister on the parliament speaking, he would say, Ha-Yisraelim v'ha-Arabim. Like, we are also Israelis, but in his consciousness, we are not there. When he thinks about the future of Israel, when he thinks about planning, when he thinks about development, we are only the aftermath. So as long as this is the approach and this is the paradigm, this is what we will have. And violence, it didn't start yesterday. The roots and the movement were there since like 30, 40 years ago. And when people live without employment, people live in segregation, people live without, in deep poverty, what do you expect? I'm not saying legitimize it, but as a social worker, I want us to understand what are the root causes so we know how to deal with this issue. And I remember myself, and this is not my first time speaking about the situation of the Palestinian minority in Israel, and I used to say, and that was in 2000, and I think, Thabet, we shared a lot of panel discussions with the North American Jewish community, and I said, guys, my generation is a generation that is aware of what is going on and is willing to do something to change it, and I will do it within the system flow. Please, this is the time to help us resolve the issue of the Palestinian minority in Israel, because I am worried that if not, my kids will grow up and they will see that I have didn't accomplish, and then they will look at my face and say, Mom, you are so naive. I have to tell you, and I'm trying not to cry. Last year, I decided to take my twins, Mu'ad and Adan, who are 19 years old, back to Israel so they can volunteer with Jewish kids, so they see that not the news, what they bring about Israel and Palestine, that there are people who are doing great work together, Jewish kids and Palestinian kids. And in the Naqab, I wanted them to have this experience because I established that program where the Jewish kids and the Bedouin kids volunteer together. The second month they arrived there, it was Sawa events where the evacuation of the Bedouin village by the JNF, planting trees, uprooting people. What is this mentality that the tree has no right, more right than Mihsen and Muhammad and Khalil, who are citizens of the state of Israel? That evening, I went back and my kids looked at my face. They want to have this demonstration in an aggressive way, and we don't have to have a permission to go to the demonstration, and you are naive. These were the toughest days and months of my life, trying to tell my kids, yes, still there is a chance, there is hope. We can achieve equality in Israel. We can have our addresses. We can be visible on the map. Slowly, slowly, we will get there, and they will look at me and say, you spent all your life and see what you get. It's more killing. It's more the police looks at our internal issues, the community killing, and would say, oh, this is revenge between the tribes. We tell the police, come, intervene. And oh, cultural sensitivity. And where is your cultural sensitivity when that woman built a small house next to her shack for her daughter, just because her daughter cannot live with her husband because she's divorced, and this is our culture? Why didn't you work sensitive there? Why your cultural sensitivity comes in only in these situations? So the police, and I called the police after shootings every night in my village, and my cousin was shot and killed 2 weeks ago. This has to be stopped, and the Israeli police has the ability to do that. And when I met with them and they said, oh, we have no budget. How come you have budget when it's only a simple shack in one of the unrecognized villages to send 100 police forces with bulldozers? For that, you have a budget. But for this, you don't have a budget. It's a question of priorities. If it is a question if whether we are citizens of the state of Israel or not. And Israel has to face this. The government, the politicians have to sit and look at our faces and say, we see you are citizens, and we have this something to do together, and we have that vision. But yet, the nation law, extremism, we see in the government, the racist language used is legitimized in Israel. When they say we don't want to do a coalition with Arabs. Can you imagine Trudeau saying, I don't want to do a coalition with Latino? Is this acceptable? This is acceptable in Israel. And no one is standing against it. And there is no accountability. And that's it.
يعطيك العافية رائع.
Clearly, she's not passionate about this. Well, you got us started on talking about the younger generation, and I think you said something the other day to the effect that they're not going to put up with what your generation has put up with. Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, because Thabet and myself were part of the whole thing last year when the Shabak said, well, this young generation, most of them became very nationalist because their mothers are Palestinians. Well, they studied the situation, but they are so not seeing what's happening there. This generation is so disappointed. This generation is growing on a place whereas we see no future, no employment in the unrecognized villages. And what is it that they would become angry? And I do understand their anger. I do understand when they get out and they fight outside of the law. I do understand that. But we are here because it's important that we teach them how to fight within the law, how to create their movement, a movement that can be sustainable only if it goes through the law and through the system that would allow this young generation. So in Alh'jooj, one of the organizations that I established, there are more than 5,000 young people who are volunteering in the Bedouin community. I taught them a course for 12 sessions, how to do community organizing, how to do this within the within the framework of the law. But this is not enough. We need more inclusive messages from the government itself. We need the Prime Minister in the future to say something that you are part of the State of Israel, that you are equal citizen. And we know that there are challenges, and we are here to help you with these challenges. Yes, in the news you see high-tech people. My brother is one of the people who are leading high-tech in the Bedouin community. There are great progress. I want to also to see that there is a great progress in the Bedouin community and also in the Palestinian minority in Israel. But this is what we see usually as the sewing phenomena. Like there is great success and story to tell. At the same time, you have extreme facts about family violence, about gender-based violence, about killing inside the community. So you have these two phenomena. Now it's up to us which one will win, which side of this will win in the future.
Well, maybe I would like to add, we said a lot of dark things, negative things. I would like to say something good. It's about time. Today, universities and colleges in Israel just started. Today, for the first time, 20% of the young first-year students are Arab students. We are 20% of the total population. 20% of the total students in universities and colleges are Arabs. Yet, having said that, we have to understand that the rest of the students who are not joining, they are not going really for higher education institutions. They have nothing to do. In my town, Kalansawa, a town in Israel, municipality, 26,000 people, there is no soccer playground, official one. There is no one, okay? There are Arab towns without playground. Thank you. Soccer, yes. There are some Arab towns without institutions, organizations, without community centers, okay? So we have a problem. While 2/3 of the Arab students in Israeli campuses are women, okay? 2/3. We see that nobody is checking where our young men are going. In the Negev, for example, last year, 7,000 kids graduated from high school. Only 1,000 of them went to higher education. Nobody is asking where the 6,000 went. Nobody knows. Nobody is following that. So we have to invest in building institutions, community centers, and try to bring these kids either to the to universities or to engage them in the economy, working. I believe that there is an opportunity to teach these kids, improve their Hebrew, there is some skills, and to integrate them to the private sector, and it's possible. But we have to the government should take more responsibility to help the Arab municipalities to try new projects. And I'm telling you that I see that more and more openness in the private sector in Israel, not only in technology, okay, high tech, but also in other jobs. But who are going to work? Women, not men. Where are our men goes? Really, we don't know.
Smoking shisha.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Amal was behind the high participation of women in the higher education.
Yeah.
I would say to that, because when you see this progress in the Palestinian minority inside Israel, I would say the policies change due to the civil society organizations in Israel.
Right.
And this is, I have to put it here, as most of you are a New Israel Fund. And this goes back to the investment of the New Israel Fund in the NGO sector in the Arab community inside Israel, and the support of Shatil for many, many, many years. I used to lead campaigns in Shatil when I was 25 years old, and the education, for example, we were administrated by a separate educational minister in Israel. Can you imagine? And because of that campaign that Shatil started and I was running, we were able to dissolve this unit and became more like integrated in the Minister of Education. And this is one of the achievements of the civil society organization. And this is what I look at Ubena and say, we need more support to civil society organization. We are not done yet. We need to flourish thousands of civil society organizations, because you know what? Civil society organization is the cure when it comes to tribalism. When people are joining efforts through a non-governmental organization, and this is their new identity, and not the tribal identity, they join efforts and they work together, as David mentioned before. They share the issue and the interest, and they say we work together on that. So the New Israel Fund for the last 40 years have been really focusing on empowering more civil society organizations in the Naqab, in the Muthallas, the Triangle, and the Galilee. And this is not because Israel opened its eyes, the government, it's because of the campaigns and the pressure that came from grassroots organizations that led at that time and supported by the New Israel Fund. Yeah. So chapeau.
All right, we have one more topic to discuss, and that's the elections, and I'm sure there's a lot of interest in that. And then we will go to Q&A. We will be doing Q&A both here and online. Hannah in the back will be bringing in the questions from the online crowd. So, elections in 9 days. How did the last experiment go with, a Palestinian, Arab-Palestinian party being, part of the government? How did that work? Did it benefit the Palestinians? Did it benefit the overall governance? Please, Thabet.
Yeah, I believe that Israel is passing through a very difficult time in the last 4 or 5 years. As you mentioned here, 5 rounds of election in less than 4 years. And the last government, it's amazing government. Only in Israel can happen 8 different parties in one government. 8 different parties, left, center, right, religious, Arabs, you name it, and go together. And the cement of this government was actually Benjamin Netanyahu. As long as Netanyahu is there, people still, we call it the changing block. There is a major goal. It's just to throw Netanyahu to disappear from the Israeli political map. Netanyahu is still there, and we are exactly in the even election where there is 2 major blocks, okay? That really, the changing block has different ideologies, okay? While the right-wing extreme, I will say, it's have one ideology. Netanyahu is leading that bloc with the ultra-Orthodox and the extreme Zionist religious party. Well, the last year, it was very challenging for the Arab community, for I will say for the government and its partners, and it was a government for 1 year. From the Arab point of view, there is two major decisions taken by the government. One, bridging the gaps, 5 years bridging the gaps plan with unprecedented amount of money. We have to acknowledge that. Yet, to pass the money to the Arab municipality, it goes time. There is a problem of bureaucracy in Israel.
The mechanism is
the mechanism is so difficult. So Arabs, they didn't feel that the money is still there, but they, at least, there is a hope. Yeah, some money colored, marked for the Arab community. We saw just a very small amount of it that passed to the Arab municipality. The other great resolution is combating crime and violence with 2.5 billion shekel, that we see first steps toward eradicating or combating crime and violence. We expect this year to end with less casualties, killed people than the last year. I believe the police can do a lot better job. Okay, it's not there yet. Okay, and the police by itself cannot do that. Okay, and we think that the government should engage in that with the dealing with the grassroots, deep causes of the crime and violence, and the Arab community. All in all, we are happy that there is political partnership. Legitimizing political partnership is so important. We believe that the Arab, for a long time, Arab knocking in the doors of the government. We want to be there. We would like to influence the decision-making process. It's unacceptable to just to be 20% of the total population and you decide for us what's good or bad for us. So want to be there, yet with a lot of conditions, okay? Yeah, we have our own conditions. This is how the Arabs were saying that, okay? We are willing to compromise. We understand that it's tough. So this is why Mansour Abbas and the Islamic movement was part of the government, yet the government faced a lot of national, I would say,
the other side,
challenges that not accepted by the Arabs. The issue of Jerusalem, the issue of Al-Aqsa Mosque. For example, this government, the changing bloc government, okay, allowed more extreme Zionist religious people to visit Al-Aqsa Mosque. And this is not visitors. They are not tourists, okay? They are coming with certain ideology. They would like to see Al-Aqsa Mosque destroyed, demolished, and they would like to build King Solomon Shrine, okay? So it's a lot of tension around Jerusalem this year. What's going on right now in the West Bank, the territories, these are our people, the Palestinians. When we hear about killing Palestinians in this amount, and this year, the number of killed Palestinians is more than any year in the last decade, okay? And this is, again, the changing bloc government, central left government, okay? So these things are obstacles for continue together. Yet, we think that there is maybe another way to join together. Right now, I know that the two major political parties in the Arab sector will nominate Yair Lapid as a prime minister, okay? And hopefully they will pass. The threshold will be there, okay? There is a problem with threshold there, okay? But probably will come up with asks, with conditions. We want this and want that. The issue for the Arabs, it's not only money. Some people, well, listen, you are getting money and they allocating budgets. And no, money is important. But we still want to see change in the policy towards Arabs. What's the status of the Arab citizen today, Palestinian citizen, under the nation state law? Are we equal citizens or not? we would like to know downgrading the status of the Arabic language. The Arabic language was an official language since 1948. What happened? Why to downgrade the status of the Arab language? So we would like to see a peace process. We are the real winner of any peace between our people, the Palestinians, and our country, Israel. Okay? I cannot visit my aunt again just because of this situation. I would like to see my aunt, okay? So we would like to see any government try a peace process, okay? We think that center-left government at least should do something in this issue of peace process.
How did the Palestinian population react to Mansour Abbas's participation in the government? And how is that affecting the prospect of the next government having an Arab partner or more than one?
Well, it's actually, there is no agreement in this issue. There is a heated debate within the Arab community, but no doubt that Mansour Abbas is leading the largest party, an Arab party, Arab Palestinian party in Israel. He's leading that. He had in the front of passing the threshold with low return that goes down all the time because of disappointment from the Arab leaders, Arab MKs, but also disappointment from the leader of the Zionist parties. Still, again, Arabs would like to see their own parties influencing the decision-making process. For example, the leftist party of Hadash, Ta'al, they would like to support the government, but from outside of the coalition, not to be there. To be within the coalition, within the government, it's very tough for Arabs. For example, Mansour Abbas voted against family unification. It's something you cannot, well, it's an issue there.
Can you tell people what is that? Yeah.
Family unification, many Palestinians, citizens of the State of Israel, married with Palestinian women from the West Bank or vice versa. Okay? Now, according to Israeli law, since it's a Jewish state, you cannot come and live inside Israel and become a citizen of the State of Israel. Now, there is a law and there is an opportunity to abolish this law and to change it and to allow Palestinian citizens. I am a citizen. My son is a citizen. If he got married with a Palestinian woman from Shechem, from Nablus, she cannot come and live with him and become a citizen of Israel. While a Jew, okay, any Jew can get married with an American woman, or Canadian woman, or a woman from Europe, and the second day she will get the Israeli citizenship. And we are citizens. So what are we going to do with this issue? Mansour Abbas, as a commitment, as part of the government and the coalition, he committed to that, okay? When you are part of the government or coalition, you committed to many things. You have to vote with your coalition. So, for example, he is a religious man. He is an Islamist, okay? But he raised his hand for support the LGBTQ community with 100 million shekel. He did it. While in his campaign before there were no way, it's not going to happen. So there is a commitment to such, if you are part of the coalition, and this is a challenge for the Arabs. Arabs cannot support settlements, okay? Support budget for the settlements, but this government every government has to support Israeli citizens. They are settlers, but they are citizens. So far, Arabs didn't do it, but Mansour Abbas for the first time did it. So Mansour Abbas say, listen, we Arabs, this is his slogan, we are Arabs, we cannot influence issues related to war and peace. Let us concentrate in our socio-economic issues. We would like to improve our life conditions, okay? Other parties will say, no, we are citizens of Israel. we cannot really differentiate between national discourse and civic discourse, okay? It goes together. And this is the real discussion within the Arab community between two tracks, between two agendas, to be in or to be out, but to support the government.
We have 2 minutes.
The
issue of voting, of Palestinian Arab citizens voting or not voting. Why is that so complicated?
Well, it's complicated just because, first of all, Arab actually disappointed from their leaders. They are actually used to be one joint list with 15 MKs working together, united, and the turnout among Arabs went up to 65%. It's unprecedented in the last 20 years. Now they dismantled, fragmented to 3 different parties. So this is the first thing, that they disappointed of their leadership. The other issue, they're disappointed of the government leaders. There is a lot of incitement. There are a lot of incitement against the Arabs in Israel, the Arab Palestinians. They are thinking about their efficacy. They are saying, Arab citizens will say, that they are not counting on us, they are not counting us. Why I have to vote? So they are expecting inclusive messages to come from Yair Lapid as a prime minister. Okay? It's unacceptable for the Arabs to see that the Likud leader, Netanyahu, is stand and say that the Islamic movement is anti-Semitic. The Arabs are expecting Yair Lapid to rise and say, this is not true. They are our partners. It's not acceptable for Arabs to see leaders, Likud leaders, say, hey guys, listen, second Nakba in your way. Be aware, second Nakba. And nobody is silent. Gantz and Lapid should rise and say, second Nakba will not be there, okay? So Arabs are looking for inclusive messages. They are part of the system, part of the Israeli society, and these inclusive messages is not coming. Out of disappointment, I would like to, if you don't have time, listen, we talked about when we with Jewish friends, mainly Jewish friends, okay? You think close to us, we are very critical. I don't want you to go out of this place with the thing that everything is dark in Israel. No, this is not the situation. There is a lot of achievement in Israel. Our people, the Palestinian minority Israel, is far better than 10 and 20 years ago. Okay? We are stronger, we are more educated, we are working more, and we are contributing to the Israeli GDP more. It's a win-win situation. It's good for Israel, it's good for us. In our ideology, we are not giving up the issue of equality. We want to be equal citizens. In Israel, still, there is no equality law. Israel, no equality law until now. You cannot talk about democracy without equality. And I'm telling you, there are so many good things that I don't have the time to talk about them. But when I see 70,000 Arab students today in the campuses studying, while just 12 years ago, only 23,000 Arab students were studying, it's amazing. We tripled the number. Okay? When I see the expansion of the middle class, the mobility of the Arabs, the openness of the private sector, the civic society, we believe Arabs today, look to what's going on in the hospitals. 22% of the total doctors are Arabs. Half of the pharmacists are Arabs. 40% of the nurses are Arabs. But the health system is just very open. We would like to see the academy is open. We would like to see the media is open for the Arabs. Still, Arabs are not there. So this is why we are optimistic. We are optimistic because we feel like we are swimming against the stream. But with the support of New Israel Fund, with the support, your support, the civic society is so strong in Israel, we feel one day we will be the stream. Everybody will go after us because we are in the right direction. Without equality, without Israel just and democratic country that is treating all people, okay, in the right way, we will step together ahead. Sorry, I took the terminology.
No one is passionate here. No. Okay, just final sort of.
Yeah, I would
thoughts
just
and-
add to the fact that we entered the coalition as I said that Mansour Abbas decided that it was really very very optimistic. People felt finally we are part of the coalition, something will happen. But here, look exactly the same way the Israeli governments are treating Mansour Abbas, the same way they are treating Abbas Mahmoud, the Palestinian Authority leader. Because see, Mansour Abbas is telling us inside Israel, I am in the government because this is what we're gonna achieve. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 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 down. And people saw no hope. So they start saying, no, we don't want to be part of the coalition if we are not able to play the game. The same thing you see in the Palestinian side. Mahmoud Abbas is not getting the legitimacy of his own people because for many, many years, he is coordinating the security efforts with Israel and see what's going on right now because he has no voice, because Israel is not helping the leaders in both sides to get the legitimacy of their people. This is exactly what's happening in both sides with the Israeli government's mentality not supporting their own partners who are doing the job for the government.
What did you mean by 1, 2, 3, 4, down, down?
Yeah, so for example, when Mansour Abbas did vote against the unification law, the family unification law, everyone was angry, saying, well, we supported you to be part of the coalition, and this is what you are doing. The second thing with Al-Aqsa, people said, we supported you, and you are really going against our main interest. So this is why people now are less supporting the being part of the coalition. I hope that with the new campaign that he's launching now, something will happen.
Cool.
But Israel have to understand, if this is your partner, treat him as your partner and not as your servant. This is the problem.
Yep.
Okay. Q&A. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand, and Zoe will bring the mic over to you. And online, you can submit it on the online Zoom, and Hannah will set up. Okay, we have now 3 hands, Jeff, Barbara, and John. Do you have the mic? Go ahead, Jeff.
I have the mic. Thank you very much to all of you. Actually, what I wanted to ask you about, I certainly understand today's conversation was largely about Palestinian citizens of Israel, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the complexities of the levels of Palestinian rights between citizens, between East Jerusalem.
Sorry, we didn't hear that.
Between citizens, between East Jerusalem and the West Bank and Gaza. Is there resentment that this group of Palestinian citizens of Israel are advocating for certain rights when these other groups have no rights? And I just wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
So basically, how do the Palestinians in the West Bank, Gaza, you relate to each other in the sense that you are at different levels of rights? And it's a good question.
Well, between the Jordanian River and the Mediterranean today, there are more Palestinians than Israelis, than Jews. It's very important to see the fact, according to the Bureau of Statistics of Israel. Now, Israel has really succeeded to fragment the Palestinian people. We are citizens of the state of Israel, while the Palestinian Jerusalemites are residents of East Jerusalem. They are not citizens, but with a special status. And then there are a Palestinian under the occupation. They are under military rule, okay? We have blood-related relations, okay? We are the strongest group in terms of economy, but also in terms of rights. After all, we are voting, we have our representatives, and we are knocking in the doors of Israel, okay, to be integrated more and more. We have this dual identity. We are Palestinians. We are part of the Palestinian people, but we also Israelis, as Israeli citizens. And what we are asking the Israelis to accept the fact that we are not going to be Jews. We are not Jewish people. And the Jewish people, Jewish system doesn't want us, honestly. Okay? So we have to admit that. The East Jerusalemite, Jerusalem is an issue. There is a lot of investment to convert them to more and more. And in some cases, Israeli government willing to give some Jerusalemites who are cooperated with the system to be citizens of the state of Israel even, okay? But it's, again, without a political solution, without recognizing the right of the Palestinians for self-determination, having their own independent and sovereign state, it's not going to work. We are the minority inside Israel, would like to see our people free, have their own country, and that can live peace with Israel, okay?
I think, yeah, very short. To your question, I think there is a lot of work done jointly between Palestinian groups of activists inside Israel and East Jerusalem and West Bank. I myself, David, visited our JCAN center in Kufr Aqab, East Jerusalem. We are helping people, provide them with tools and legal aid, how to work in the system so their family unification issues are more easily done. We work with the Najah University, train people in advocacy. We teach them how to do advocacy and position papers to speak with the Palestinian Authority for kids with disabilities, for women's rights. So in these issues, we are really working together because yeah, marginalized minorities are marginalized minorities everywhere. And these are the ones who usually pay the price for conflicts and wars. And if we empower them to stand up and bring them to the front, they will be able to work together. So yes, there is a lot of joint work done between Palestinian community in Israel and also communities in West Bank and East Jerusalem.
Okay, we're going to take 3 questions now. Hannah online, go ahead.
Great. So I have a question from our board member, Maytal, who's on Zoom, and she's asking, what is the #1 thing you want Canadian Jews to learn about Palestinian citizens of Israel?
What's again?
What's the #1 thing you want Canadian Jews to learn? Hold on. We're really running out of time. I mean, we started a little bit late, so yeah, please make note of that question and take John.
Thank you, all of you, for that. Very important. I understand the frustration, especially about Mansour Abbas. He was in a coalition, and if he didn't vote the way he did, the coalition would have fallen apart, and we'd be where we are now 6 months ago. So that's a problem. But if you had 15 Arab MKs, now you would control this election.
Absolutely.
And you run the risk now of having 4 or maybe 8.
And maybe
but
0.
You actually could control this election much more than Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. And because of disunity, you're giving that power up. And we all could end up with a radical right-wing government. I get it, but I don't get it.
Okay. All right. Barbara, ask your question, and then I will give 2 minutes to each of our guests here to answer, and then Ben will take over.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Do I have to push something? Or,
No.
Or am I? Okay.
It's easy.
I want to say thank you. This has been a wonderful afternoon. And my question is, given that Israel has an election every few months, I know that there is work being done behind the scenes now to build an equality party, a party of equal numbers of Jews and Palestinians working together for a cooperative outcome. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that and what is some of the mission of that? What are some of the principles and the values that will encourage the New Israel Fund supporters to support you? How can we help build that dream?
Thank you. All right.
2 minutes?
2 minutes, wow, okay. Well, John, we had already 15 Arab MKs that nominated Gantz and willing to support Gantz. And Gantz give us his back and escape to Netanyahu. Okay, we tried that. Nothing can be guaranteed. If the Arabs have 20, they will take them. I agree with you. I would love to see in this election, Arabs are turning their votes in higher percentages and to have 15 MKs. But I am not sure of Arabs will say, well, nobody can guarantee this is will happen. But it's a battle, it's a politics. We have to try again and again. Now, the political party, I am personally engaged in that. I believe that it's about time to establish a Jewish Arab, Jewish Palestinian party inside Israel in equal foot. I think issues, important issues, 4 pillars, I will say, not issues, 4 pillars, equality for the community, abolishing the nation state law or change it at least. This is one thing. And enacting equality law. The second thing, peace between our people, the Palestinian, and our country is so important. Social justice and democracy, they are the 4 pillars of the political party. Regarding the Jews in Canada, what they want to learn about us, that we are striving for equality. It's so important, and integration within the Israeli society, okay? We would like to integrate in all realms of society, not only in the hospitals, okay, the health system. We want to be everywhere. This is what's important to know about us.
Thank you. That was
quick.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Okay, so I'll start with a new party. I think this is something that really can be done. I think there is enough people who really dream of something. We have amazing people on the ground that they believe in this. The problem, as Thabet said, the challenge is the national conflict. Even for us as women groups, we unite around every issue. And we meet around gender-based violence and around every issue. One battle on Gaza, we leave each other. We forget all our community. We forget all the things we did together. The national conflict need to be resolved or become an agenda of this shared party. Without that, it won't survive, it won't stand. So this is one. The second thing, what is the one thing? The one thing is, if you care about Israel, you fix Israel. If you care about Israel, you tell Israel what's wrong about having 82,000 people living without electricity and water and basic services. If you care about Israel, stop them from this racist and legitimized discourse. If you love Israel, don't support all the things that they are doing in the settlements. Israel won't sustain itself by military forever. Israel will sustain itself only by good neighboring. And the people around Israel should be neighbors and live in peace, not being forced to live with Israel in peace, by wanting to live with Israel in peace. And the Palestinian minority in Israel is the bridge. And we cannot be excluded from this process because we know what's good for both sides. We understand Hebrew, we understand the nuance, we understand the fear of the Jewish people inside Israel, and we understand also the Palestinian side. So we want to play. So you support us so we can play that role, and you also support us to correct Israel before it's too late. Thank you very much.
You are the bridge. That's a good note to end on. I figured out who's super and who's amazing. You are both super amazing.
Thank you.
This is diplomacy.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Moraine, and the day after Israel's election, I'm celebrating my 5th anniversary as the executive director of the New Israel Fund of Canada. Time really flies. This is the reason why I'm thankful to work for this organization every day. Oof. I feel my daily work has a direct impact on Israel and on our community in Canada. Over the past 5 years, I've watched us grow. I watched us grow in number of donors, number of staff, numbers of giving, and numbers of events, online and offline, throughout the year. Let's bring on screen for the last couple minutes, I promise you we'll only be together for 2 more minutes, our virtual audience, if we could. Earlier, oh, you guys can stay, but that's fine. Over 1,000 people each year the past few years have attended our events. And it's a special pleasure to be back here in person, but it's an even bigger pleasure to know that our marquee event, the Shira Herzog Symposium, is now permanently hybrid nationwide every year. We've found this growth because it's easy for any Canadian to see that some things in Israel need fixing. As Linda said at the beginning, our work takes the long view. This is bigger than one election, one sector of Israeli society, or any one politician, no matter how bad he may be. The struggle for true equality and democracy in Israel is a team sport. It's going to take us maybe another 40 years, and we should be prepared for victory, and we should be prepared for setback. More and more Canadians are taking notice, and they inevitably find their way to the New Israel Fund of Canada. We're the only organization in Canada active on the ground fighting for Palestinian equality, for shared society, for ending the occupation, as well as women's and gender rights, religious freedom, and social justice writ large. Our inspiration comes from these Israelis who do the hardest work, often the least popular work, the most against the grain, the most swimming upstream work, challenging the status quo and the powers that be. And they do so in full knowledge that victory is not guaranteed. So who is going to stand with them? Who's supporting them? That's our job. That's your job. This is why NIF was built. We were not built for the easy times. We were built for the really tough ones. If these elections result in a government ready to make progressive social change, well, then we'll be there to help with every single issue, no matter what it is. If these elections result in an extremist government, then we are ready to defend human rights there for everyone. After next week's election day, we still won't know the result for another month or even months. So as we bite our nails, as you bite your nails through the next few months, and as you decide your year-end charitable giving, I ask you to remember the hope and the determination and the achievements that you've heard today. And if it's been a while since you visited Israel for one reason or another, please come with me on our 8-day study tour next May 8th to 15th. If you thought hearing from Thabet and from Amal on this podium was impressive, do it in Amal's village, do it in Thabet's home. Just imagine meeting 24 others representing all the other sectors of Israeli society that weren't represented here today, which are also part of our home community in Israel. It's really not something to be missed. Raja, thank you for moderating a fascinating conversation. We're honored to call you a friend here in Canada. Thabet and Amal, thank you for being here in person and for offering Canadians your analysis and your determination, for being super awesome. Thank you to David Lepofsky for being an inspiring example of cross-pollinating activism in everything you do. Thank you to Joan Garson, who helped found this annual event 12 years ago and helps us keep alive Shira Herzog's impressive memory. Thank you to Linda Hershkovitz, our president, for being my co-conspirator and representing our hardworking board members and our wider leadership. Thanks, not least, also to our staff team, Hannah Cohen, Laurence Barchichat, and Zoe Bernard, for excellently minding all of the myriad aspects of today's hybrid event. Thank you to the venue staff for your excellent help today. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good evening. Don't forget Amal's book is at the back for purchase. Good night.